Across the United States lie abandoned military bases, once centers of power, strategy, and war. Today, these places stand in silence, but silence doesn't always mean peace. Behind the crumbling walls and deserted runways, countless terrifying stories are whispered, ghostly soldiers still marching, mysterious shadows roaming at night, and chilling cries echoing through the darkness. Each base holds secrets that refuse to rest, as if the past is haunting the present. In this video, we will explore 5 of the most haunted abandoned military bases in the United States, and uncover the ghost stories that make them unforgettable. If you enjoyed these haunted stories, make sure to subscribe and help us reach 10 likes, 10 shares, and 10 comments on this video. 1. Fort Ord, California. Fort Ord rests quietly on the coast of Monterey Bay, California. For decades, this military base trained hundreds of thousands of soldiers before it finally closed in 1994. Today, much of its land has been turned into parks and a university campus, but the old, abandoned barracks and crumbling buildings still stand as silent reminders of a once busy past. Walking through Fort Ord today feels like stepping back into time. The long empty barracks, broken windows, and peeling paint whisper of days when young soldiers filled these halls. You can almost picture them polishing their boots, laughing with friends, or writing letters back home. The silence inside those buildings carries a heavy weight, as if the memories of the past are still alive in the air. Many locals and former soldiers say Fort Ord is not only a place of history but also of lingering spirits. Over the years, visitors have reported strange sounds, boots marching across empty hallways, doors slamming when no wind blows, and voices calling out names that no one recognizes. Some describe sudden cold spots, as if someone invisible had walked right past them. One of the most chilling reports comes from people who have heard the barking of phantom dogs. Fort Ord once housed guard dogs, and though no animals live there now, many visitors still claim to hear growling and heavy panting in the dark. Imagine standing on an empty parade ground at night and suddenly hearing a dog charging toward you, only for the sound to vanish into silence. These moments leave people shaken, wondering if the spirits of soldiers and their loyal dogs are still guarding the base. There are also tragic stories tied to the fort. Some soldiers who trained here went off to war and never returned, and others struggled with the mental scars of combat. People believe that the restless energy of these men lingers in the abandoned buildings. Shadows are often reported in the old hospital and training areas, figures that vanish the moment you turn to face them. The most intense experiences usually happen deep inside the restricted sections, where buildings have been left untouched for decades. Explorers describe a suffocating feeling, like being watched closely, and some leave with scratches or bruises they cannot explain. These spike moments of terror are what make Fort Ord one of the most talked about haunted military sites in the United States. Still, beyond the ghostly tales, Fort Ord gives valuable lessons about history. It tells us about the sacrifices of soldiers, the cost of war, and how places can hold on to memory long after their purpose has ended. Whether you believe in spirits or not, standing inside Fort Ord makes you realize that history is alive in ways we cannot always explain. 2. Naval Air Station Alameda, California. Naval Air Station Alameda sits on the edge of San Francisco Bay. For over 50 years, it was one of the busiest naval air stations in the United States. From World War II to the Cold War, its runways launched aircraft that defended the Pacific. But when the base officially closed in 1997, the busy roar of engines faded, and silence took over the wide concrete runways and massive hangars. Today, parts of the site have been reused for filming and industry, but many sections remain abandoned, carrying the weight of history. Walking through the old hangars gives you a strange feeling. The ceilings stretch high above, the air smells of rust and dust, and the echo of your own footsteps sounds too loud. You can almost imagine mechanics shouting, the whir of aircraft engines, and sailors rushing to prepare planes for missions. The emptiness leaves a hollow ache, as though the building itself remembers the days when it mattered most. Locals and workers often speak of eerie encounters inside the deserted hangars. Some have reported hearing the sound of heavy boots walking across the metal floors when the place was empty. Others describe the sudden echo of voices, short commands shouted in the dark, fading before you can understand them. The most unsettling reports are of figures in Navy uniforms appearing at the far end of a hangar, only to vanish when approached. One of the top chilling moments comes from security guards who patrolled the site after closure. Several guards claimed they heard the distinct rumble of aircraft engines late at night. The sound would build as if a plane was about to take off, but when they rushed outside, there was nothing, just a runway stretching silently into the darkness. This phantom takeoff has been repeated in different accounts, making it one of Alameda's most famous ghost stories. There are also stories tied to real tragedies. During its active years, accidents happened, pilots lost in crashes, workers injured on duty, and sailors who never returned from missions. People believe their restless spirits remain tied to the base. The old hospital building is often mentioned in whispers, with reports of shadowy figures moving past windows and lights flickering even though the power is disconnected. Exploring Naval Air Station Alameda today, you feel a deep mix of history and unease. The base tells a story of courage, sacrifice, and the cost of serving far from home. At the same time, the strange reports suggest the past may not have left completely. Whether it is imagination fueled by history or real echoes of those who lived and died here, the site leaves a mark on everyone who visits. 3 Castle Air Force Base, California. Castle Air Force Base once stood proudly in Atwater, California. For decades, it was one of America's most important strategic air command bases. Its runways saw giant B-52 bombers preparing for missions, and its skies echoed with the roar of powerful engines. The base trained countless crews and carried the heavy responsibility of nuclear readiness during the Cold War. But when it was closed in 1995, silence replaced the thunder of planes, leaving behind long runways, empty hangars, and abandoned housing units that now sit frozen in time. Walking through the base today is like stepping into a ghost town. The cracked roads lead past silent dormitories and deserted classrooms. Paint peels from the walls, weeds push through the concrete, and broken glass crunches under your feet. You can almost hear the laughter of young airmen, the discipline of marching feet, and the distant hum of jets preparing for flight. That mix of memory and emptiness creates a haunting atmosphere that many visitors never forget. Over the years, reports of strange activity have surfaced. Locals and explorers say they have heard voices calling out on the empty parade grounds. Some describe the sound of boots walking across the concrete when no one is there. Others speak of sudden cold winds sweeping through sealed rooms, as if someone invisible had just passed by. One of the most chilling accounts comes from former guards who patrolled the site after its closure. Several said they saw shadow-like figures standing near the runways at night. The figures looked like airmen in uniform, motionless and silent. When the guards approached, the shadows simply faded into the darkness. These phantom airmen stories are among the most repeated and terrifying tales of Castle. Tragedies are also part of its history. During its active years, accidents claimed lives, pilots lost during training, mechanics injured on duty, and families who carried the heavy burden of Cold War fears. Some believe that these painful memories fuel the ghost stories told today. Visitors exploring the old barracks often describe an overwhelming sadness, as if the walls themselves still hold on to the emotions of those who once lived there. The top spike moments happen in the abandoned hangars. People claim they hear the rumble of engines starting, even though the hangars are empty. Others say they smell jet fuel suddenly, sharp and fresh, before it vanishes. These experiences connect directly to the base's history, making the hauntings feel more real than imagined. Castle Air Force Base is more than an abandoned site. It is a reminder of the Cold War, of soldiers who trained tirelessly, and of lives marked by duty and sacrifice. Whether or not you believe in spirits, the base teaches us how history leaves echoes behind, sometimes loud enough for us to hear even today. 4. Fort MacArthur, Los Angeles, California. Fort MacArthur stands on the cliffs of San Pedro, guarding the entrance to Los Angeles Harbor. Built in the early 20th century, this fort was once a vital defense site. During both World Wars, its massive coastal guns and underground bunkers stood ready to protect the city from enemy attacks. Though the fort never saw direct combat, it remained an active post for decades before closing as a military base in the late 1970s. Today, parts of Fort MacArthur have been preserved as a museum, but many of its hidden tunnels and gun batteries lie abandoned, slowly being claimed by time. Walking across the grounds, you feel the strong presence of history. The concrete batteries still face the Pacific Ocean, and the empty gun mounts look like silent guardians watching the waves. The long, damp tunnels stretch into darkness, carrying the smell of rust and earth. Stepping inside, your footsteps echo sharply, and it is easy to imagine the soldiers who once marched these same paths. Locals and visitors say these tunnels are more than silent, they are haunted. Strange noises often echo where no one is present. Some explorers report hearing voices whispering just behind them, though the tunnels are empty. Others describe sudden drops of temperature, a chill that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand straight. One of the most terrifying stories comes from people who entered the lower tunnels at night. They claim to hear the sound of boots marching in formation, steady and synchronized, moving closer and closer. But when they turned their flashlights toward the noise, the tunnel was empty. The sound simply stopped, leaving only silence and fear. Another chilling account is of shadow figures seen near Battery Osgood, one of the old gun placements. Visitors describe tall, dark shapes standing near the concrete walls, unmoving, as though guarding the coast even long after the base was shut down. These figures fade when approached, leaving witnesses shaken and convinced they had not been alone. There are also stories tied to real human struggles. Many soldiers stationed here lived in isolation, waiting for attacks that never came, carrying the stress of endless drills. Some veterans said the loneliness of the tunnels weighed heavily on them, and people believe that emotional energy lingers. When visitors feel the sadness or hear the distant echo of a voice calling out, it feels connected to the restless spirits of those men. The top spike moments often come when visitors wander too deep into the tunnels. Some claim their flashlights suddenly fail, plunging them into complete darkness. In that silence, they hear a whisper, a single word they cannot understand. The terror of that moment stays with them long after they leave. Fort MacArthur is more than abandoned bunkers, it is a place where history and memory collide. It tells the story of a city protected by unseen soldiers and reminds us of the sacrifices made during uncertain times. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, standing in those tunnels teaches you that the past never truly disappears. 5. Nike Missile Site SF-88, Marin Headlands, California. High in the Marin Headlands, overlooking San Francisco Bay, lies Nike Missile Site SF-88. Built during the tense years of the Cold War, this site once housed nuclear-capable missiles designed to protect the city from possible air attacks. Soldiers lived and worked here in strict silence, always prepared for an enemy that never came. Today, the site has been preserved as part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area. Tourists can visit, but many parts remain locked away, their empty silos and underground rooms frozen in time. Walking through SF-88 is like stepping into a chapter of history. The metal blast doors are still in place, the missile elevators still sit ready to rise, and the concrete tunnels stretch into cold darkness. The air feels heavy, carrying the scent of oil and rust. Every step echoes against the steel walls, reminding you of the men who once stood watch in shifts, waiting for orders that, thankfully, never arrived. Visitors and staff have often reported eerie experiences. Some say they hear the low hum of machinery starting up, even when the power is off. Others describe the sound of heavy boots moving across the concrete floors, as if soldiers are still on patrol. A few have even felt sudden pressure on their shoulders, like a hand resting there, only to turn around and find no one. One of the most chilling stories comes from the underground missile bay. Tour guides and visitors alike have claimed to hear muffled voices, almost like radio chatter, coming from the empty control rooms. The sound fades if you try to follow it, leaving behind only silence and a racing heartbeat. Shadow figures are another common report. People describe seeing tall shapes moving through the fog outside the site at night. These figures resemble guards in uniform, standing watch over the coast. Locals believe they are the spirits of soldiers who took their duty so seriously that they continue to guard the base long after death. The top spike moment happens deep in the silo rooms. More than one visitor has claimed that their flashlight flickered and went out, plunging them into complete darkness. In that silence, they felt the floor shake slightly, as if the elevator was moving again. For a few seconds, it feels like the site has come alive, preparing for a mission that will never happen. Beyond the ghostly tales, SF-88 gives us valuable lessons. It shows the fear of the Cold War era, when the threat of nuclear attack shaped daily life. It reminds us how soldiers lived under constant pressure, guarding a nation from dangers that never appeared. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, standing inside the missile site makes you realize how the past still lingers, in steel, in silence, and maybe in spirit.